You have an Azure Active Directory tenant with specific users. Let us look at the user table. Row 1, User 1, no role. Row 2, User 2, Privileged Authentication Administrator. Row 3, User 3, Global Administrator. In Azure AD Privileged Identity Management, you configure the Global Administrator role. The table lists these settings. Row 1, Activation Maximum Duration, 1 hour. Row 2, Require justification on activation, yes. Row 3, Require ticket information on activation, no. Row 4, on activation, require Azure MFA, yes. Row 5, Require approval to activate, no.
Continuing the settings table. Row 6, Approvers, none. Row 7, Allow permanent eligible assignment, yes. Row 8, Allow permanent active assignment, yes. Row 9, Require Azure multi-factor authentication on active assignment, no. Row 10, Require justification on active assignment, yes.
User 1 is eligible for the Global Administrator role. You must evaluate 3 statements. First, User 1 requires Azure multi-factor authentication to activate the Global Administrator role. Second, User 2 must approve all activation requests for the Global Administrator role assignment. Third, User 2 and User 3 can edit the Global Administrator role assignment. For each statement, decide if the answer is yes or no.
Regarding the first statement, I believe the answer is yes. The PIM configuration for the Global Administrator role explicitly states that Azure multi-factor authentication is required on activation. Therefore, User 1 must complete this process to activate the role.
For the second statement, I believe the answer is no. The configuration explicitly shows that the setting for requiring approval to activate is set to no. Consequently, no user, including User 2, is required to approve activation requests for this role. Finally, for the third statement, I believe the answer is no. Modifying Global Administrator role assignments generally requires permissions associated with the Privileged Role Administrator, or Global Administrator roles. Because User 2 holds only the Privileged Authentication Administrator role, they lack the authority to edit these assignments, rendering the statement false.